Why did the Army cancel the shark attack? Add boot camp. Now, by the way, boot camp, not a thing for the Army. It's basic training, okay? But I wanted to check this video out with you all and kind of get their take on why did the Army decide to get rid of the shark attack. Now, I've heard some insider stuff. I know I've heard some reasonings why, but this is from the horse's mouth. They're going to tell us why. Why did we get rid of it? So let's see what they got.
Shut up! Shut the hell up! Why are you switching back? Pick the right one up and put it over your damn head. Do you understand me? Yes, sir.
This
way! Let's go!
is the shark attack.
Get off your head! Get off your head!
Oh,
A
man.
mandatory rite of passage for every future U.S. Army soldier.
Real quick, so this video that they're showing right now, this footage, is stuff that we've already seen in the basic training video that we did on our YouTube channel.
On day one of basic training.
Run! Hurry up! Hurry!
At least it used to be.
You're a tough guy. Don't move! Do something! That's what I thought.
In September, the Army announced that the shark attack will no longer take place.
This year, we developed a new training event for our initial entry soldiers.
Hustle! Let's go!
Instead, the shark attack has been replaced by what you see here.
Whoa! Hey!
An event called the First 100 Yards.
That's interesting.
I think there was a time and a place for the shark attack. We already know it's a cultural thing, but I think we can make this better.
Right there! Right.
All right, so one of the things that they're probably going to talk in this video, again, I haven't seen it, but one of the things that the reason why they decided to get rid of the shark attack and the argument for it is because it was traditionally a way to try and break down the soldier right away, to assert dominance as the idea, and to show who it is that they need to be following, right? It sets the tone, and when I went through, right, I had a shark attack. I had my senior drill sergeant in my face screaming at me at one point during the shark attack, so that was great. And yeah, you're holding your bag above your head, and it hurts. Now, one of the things I want to mention about this, one of the main reasons that they got rid of this, in my personal opinion, is because the military, at least the Army, does not do anything for testing-wise, anything with the shoulders, as far as a press, a single press where you are going above your head. They don't do that, and if you have a brand new private off the street, doesn't work out, you're having them press a bag. By the way, these bags, if you don't weigh them correctly, because they don't tell you how to do it, it's just, hey, guess what? Here you go. Fill up your bags, and you're going to basic training. And then guess what? If you pick the wrong bag to hold above your head, that's on you. They have you drop both bags, and then they have you pick them up. And I ended up picking up, unfortunately, the heavy one. And I had to hold that above my head. That's the issue, right? Is that the Army doesn't do any specific testing for a press above your head. So it makes sense why, if you're looking at a doctrinally or a testing specific, there is nothing that talks about doing presses above your head in this manner. So trying to keep brand new recruits from getting hurt, that is the key here, especially with people that are not necessarily as active as they used to be. The risk of injury is right away.
Right there! There's a lot right there!
Business Insider recorded this footage of a shark attack inside Fort Benning in February, showing future soldiers beginning their training in the armor school.
You know, we're breaking a lot of habits from the civilian world, and nothing better than a little shock to the system to let us start our training.
I want everybody to keep that in mind. Nothing like a shock to the system to get training started. That is a lieutenant colonel, battalion commander that is saying that back in February. Okay, keep that in mind.
Decided to join the Army and you can't pick that bag up.
With the Army's announced change, this may be some of the last footage of a shark attack to ever be recorded.
Why can't you follow simple instructions?
And according to the Army, when this footage was recorded in February, the plan to transition away from the shark attack was already in motion.
Somebody stand to the wall. Let's go!
Which makes sense because it takes
Fortenberry
a long time to get doctrine and things changed, especially something that this, I don't even think is written in doctrine. It's just an unwritten rule that has been done. This is how they've kind of done things. So
said he began to reevaluate the shark attack at the request of his superior officer.
He said, Rob, what do you think about the shark attack? And I'm like, sir, I've struggled with that thing my whole career because it doesn't speak to an all-volunteer force.
Shut the hell up! Shut your mouth! Shut your mouth!
You know, loyalty, duty, honor, selfless service. And the shark attack was completely counterintuitive to that.
You were told to pick up the left bag! Why do you have the right bag?
So how did this become a regular part of Army training?
In the early 60s, we were not a volunteer army, we were a draft army. So you had people that had no desire to ever be a part of the service that were drafted into the military to serve in Vietnam. There was dominance that needed to be established early on to really kind of weed out the less than desirables, or quite honestly, those that might turn against the drill sergeants as they were going through training.
The draft era ended in 1973, and the Army returned to being an all-volunteer force. But the shark attack remained an undocumented part of basic training.
Why are you moving? Why are you moving?
It has never been written down in any historical document. So it's literally been tribal lore and just passed on from generation to generation. And I think that's really important.
Roll your eyes again.
But you know, it's a problem when a trainee tells the CSM that they expected it to be harder. So that was the thing. For those of you that don't know, that was an actual thing. There were trainees that were the brand new Sergeant Major of the Army, went down, Sergeant Major Grinston, went to go take a look at what was going on with the first, I think the 100. First 100, I think is what it's called, the new thing. They're going to talk about it, I'm sure. They asked a private what he thought, and he said, I honestly was expecting it to be harder. And you can hear the guy behind the camera whispering things, like telling to try and prompt conversation from the drill sergeant and to Sergeant Major Grinston, because they're trying to push this idea that the first 100 is better than the shark attack. That's the idea. So the higher ups are going to do what they want to do, and a lot of it is image. A lot of it's very image specific. Their idea and what they thought was best here was to do a all volunteer force, not shoving this in everybody's face. You know what I mean? So
what was it designed to do? What were the outcomes of the shark attack? And it's almost a trick question because I did my homework and it's not codified anywhere. There are no outcomes for a shark attack.
I don't agree with that. I really think what it does is it sets the tone, like the Lieutenant Colonel said. It sets the tone. It lets people know who's in charge right off the bat. So it's not even that, John. Like, I get when the camera's off, dude, they're definitely yelling at them. They're still getting their corrective training. They're still doing push-ups. They're still doing everything. It's just the initial scare tactic that happens is a punch to the face. Now, here's the thing. Everybody, in my opinion, when I was going in, at least let's base it off of my experience, and let's base it off of people in the chat. So for those of you who went to boot camp, basic training, all these different training, initial entry training, let me know what your thoughts are on this. I personally, I grew up, I watched Full Metal Jacket. I watched Band of Brothers. I watched a bunch of freaking military movies and videos and things, and I knew what I was getting into. I knew that basic training, I was going to show up and I was going to get screamed at and yelled at and all that stuff. So I knew this was going to happen, and it's not like it came as a shock to me when it happened. It still sucked. Dude, it sucked running up a hill with my bags, right? Everybody understands what is expected of them.
One of the basic components of a shark attack is trainees being ordered to lift and hold their duffel bags above their heads.
It was mass punishment, so there was nothing to achieve. There was nothing to gain. It was, quite honestly, it was survive it. Just survive whatever was getting thrown at you, but it didn't result in any success or failure. It was just survive an hour of just getting screamed at, yelled at, and holding a duffel bag.
Okay, so that's the thing, right? Survival. Think about this for a second, ladies and gentlemen. This is the first thing that you are getting to. Everything that you do in life, just in general, one day at a time, one activity at a time, one single moment at a time. When I was in training, basic training, I literally took it one day at a time. I took it one event at a time. I took it one meal at a time. That's how I thought of things. I went, all right, let's make it to breakfast. All right, cool, I made it to breakfast. Let's make it to lunch. All right, made it to lunch. Let's make it to dinner. And that's how I segmented my days and my thought processes. So if anything gets hard for you guys and gals at home, I highly encourage you to try that mentality and that method, because that helped me incredibly throughout my time in just training. It helped segment the day, and those little victories where you say, I made it to this point. I made it to dinner. I made it to breakfast. I made it to lunch. Those things, that helped me out a lot. And for him to just say it's just survival, that's a big part, in my opinion, that you are able to overcome if you can get that segmented in your head right away when you first get there and you say, I made it through the first part of it, now we're here. I think that's a W, and that should be a win in your brain, and it should be something that should boost you up. Because that's how I felt. I literally remember grabbing my bags and running up to our bay after we got done with the shark attack and thinking, whew, made it through. Awesome. What's next? That was the mentality. It's too much about feelings and not enough about doing your duty and being fit for duty. Shark attacks effective when you went through, we knew what was up and we knew who to listen to. Exactly. I agree. I think the issue is because there's a little change and a switch up of who's allowed to do what now. That drill sergeants aren't able to do as much as, and Goof, not knowing when you went through, I'm guessing when I went through, they were a lot more hands-off compared to especially when Gator and you guys went through. So that's what's interesting, is that you have the CSMs, lieutenant colonels, the colonels, that are making these decisions for this. So think about that, you know? That's the thing that's interesting behind this whole thing. But it is what you make of it, definitely.
It's almost like the shark attack allowed you, for that moment in time, to not treat somebody with dignity and respect.
How do you still not understand this? He just said it!
That's a great example of how it betrays the trust. And I'm going to humiliate you as a man, as an individual, or as a woman. And then literally once this event is done, I'm going to tell you how you need to believe in me. As a drill sergeant, my job is to build trust with you so that when I say something or when I ask you to do something, you believe in me because you know I have your best interest at heart. It's leadership 101, right?
So here's the thing, though, that when you get into the regular force, that is when it is supposed to be mainly that mentorship. Or if you're in your AIT portion, or when you're going to your further job training, that is when that mentorship is going to be there. The drill sergeants are there specifically to instill discipline, to instill the 7 Army values, and to make sure that you're getting the proper training and hitting all the marks that you need in order to graduate basic training. That's what they're there for. So that's the thing, is I don't like how the way that they're putting it is, it wasn't doing anything for them. If you are a soldier, in my opinion, when I first got there, dude, I knew who was in charge. I knew, like, hey, we're not fucking around and finding out, because we'd get smoked. And exactly to what Bliet Man said, pain retains. You mess up and get punished, then you know not to do it again. That's how it was for me, and that's how I think it should be. And that's how it was when I went through. Dude, you got group punishment if one person in your platoon messed up, because it sucks. You don't want people to keep screwing up. It's one of those tough parts of just dealing with the suck, embracing the suck, and doing it together in a platoon. And it only gets better as you go throughout training. You know, you get that discipline instilled early on, and you show who's the boss rather than what they're going to show a little bit later. Everybody reacts to something differently. That's one thing that I need everybody to understand here too, is that not every single thing that they do in training will stick with everybody. So if someone shows up and they're getting shark attack and they're getting screamed at, some people grew up getting yelled at all the time, and that doesn't bother them. Or compared to somebody who's never been screamed at in their life is getting screamed at, they're going to respond to that.
Hustle, let's go!
This is what's replacing the shark attack. The first 100 yards. Or as it's known in the armor school, Thunder Run. Fort Benning provided this footage of the event in action, and while the tone is different, it's clear the drill sergeants aren't taking it easy on the train.
Fun little fact, this drill sergeant right here was at officer candidate school. He was one of the non-commissioned officers that was in charge of one of the platoons in my company.
Knees.
Stop walking! You better sound the off, yes? Yes, drill sergeant!
We still scream. We still yell. We still drive intensity and momentum because we want to have that shock. We want to have that confusion.
Stop wandering with your eyes.
The difference is that there's an outcome to be achieved versus during the shark attack, it's just yelling and screaming to determine who the less desirables are.
And that's an important point to make here. I'm sorry I keep pausing it, but that's an important point to make because that shows you what Big Army is thinking. Objectives. What is the mission and how do we get to the end state? What is the mission and objectives of the shark attack versus what is the mission and objectives of the first 100? It's an obtainable, it's a thing that they can put on paper, on a PowerPoint, on something that makes tangible sense when you're looking from a upper echelon management position. Does that mean it's right? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just giving you an idea of what I think they went into in the thought process of this.
The event takes place over 2.5 hours. It includes a mock battlefield resupply mission.
1 minute, get a good look at it. Everybody get a good look at it.
Their first thing when they get that resupply mission is the drill sergeant leads the men, leads the platoon with a simple follow me. Let's go.
First, communication is key to succeed as a team. Let's go.
He's driving it. He's leading it. He's leading by example.
The event also includes competitive fitness tests, featuring exercises from the Army's combat fitness test, like leg tucks, push-ups, and the standing power throw.
It's 2.5 hours of straight physical exertion. So, as you go through these events, if you lose, you get smoked or you do corrective training. There are consequences to failure. There are consequences to loss.
So that's another interesting idea, right? That's a very interesting idea when you think about this, because what he just said also just points even more to that objective-based mindset where they are saying ACFT, the new Army Combat Fitness Test. It is the brand new thing that they have going on for the Army. It is a new fitness test. So there you go. It's a way for them to implement new things right away, get them understanding some of the things that they're going to have to do later on in training, and go from there. That's the idea right there. Boom. Fast instruction in a time-sensitive environment, which is key, definitely. I totally agree with that. Being able to understand, what's quick, concise. What do you need to figure out in a quick, stressful environment? I definitely can see that as well.
One of the last phases of the first 100 yards features a demonstration of an infantry squad in action.
We show them what a real infantry squad looks like. And this could be you in 22 weeks. Through your determination and your desire to succeed, this could be you. So let's start the journey. I want to put them through a challenging test where winning does matter. I want them to taste success if they've applied to the best of their ability what they've been able to achieve through physical hardship. And the results of that is they've tested themselves. They've tested themselves the first time.
Curious what everybody's thoughts are as we wrap this up, but my ending thoughts would definitely be, Army's going to do what it needs to do. Army's going to do what they think is best. Whether you agree with it or not doesn't matter, because end of the day, they're going to do what they want. And at the end of the day as well, such are the things that we've hit on. Number one, they want to hit on the ACFT, an objective, give people an objective. Two, they're giving them, kind of like what Goof was saying, time-sensitive environment. Look at something, be able to process it, and then make sure that they can get it right at the end of the time that they have. There's some ideas that they have here. I get that. Do I agree with it? Not entirely. I don't necessarily agree with it entirely. It is what it is. But thanks for checking this out with me. And yeah, say what you